How are we doing, Sourdough Squad? Hopefully, you guys had a phenomenal weekend. It is Monday, and of course, we are inching. And when I say inching, we are inching closer and closer and closer and closer to training camp. What does that mean? Oh, the news cycle's starting to pick up, ladies and gentlemen. The news cycle is starting to pick up. But before we get into all of it and we start breaking it down, we start checking in with you guys, how you guys are feeling, do me a solid. Drop an SDS in the chat if you're vibing with your boy. And do not forget, smash that like button. Boom. Let's go. I'm hyped today. We got stuff to talk about. We got stuff to discredit. And we got stuff to hypothesize. That could be a word. I could have just made it up. You know me. N words. We're not friends. But hey, that doesn't matter. Let's get into it really quickly. First of all, I want to shout out all the SDS. Shout out all the bread gang. You know the vibes. Smash that like button. What's good, Jesse? What's good, Mariah? Insight, my boy. How you doing today? SDS in the building. Jimmy to Seattle. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Germany burgers in the building. Let's go. You know the vibes. Hopefully, you guys are just getting into your work day. Maybe you're halfway through. Maybe you're almost done. But we are going to tune into a little bit of 49ers talk here. We're going to have a lot of rumors, speculation, notes to talk about today from things that occurred over the weekend. We are specifically going to be talking about this particular topic, how Jimmy might go to Tampa and how that was emphatically shot down earlier today. And Gammon's on point. He says, I trust reports on Garoppolo's trade as much as I trust Brad's spelling. This is 100%. 100%. Shout out Gammon. What's good, Gab? What's good, Smitty? We got all the SDS in the building. We see the vibes. Audio check. Audio going good? Audio bad. Ooh, I know what it is. I know what it is. Thank you very much. Now let's try that one more time.
Hopefully, the audio now sounds a little bit more buttery. A little bit more buttery. Thank you for the audio check. Appreciate you guys. We're letting the hair fly today, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, there we go. We got the audio back. Ooh la 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 la. Ooh la la la. Don't ever ask me to sing. Ever. But we got the buttery sounds. All right, we're back. Let's get into it. That's enough. Small talk for today. Let's go. Let's get into it. We got the flow, ginger power going. You know the vibes. No hat today. We said screw it. We're gonna let the curls go today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, not sorry. But let's get into it. Over the weekend, we're gonna work from the weekend into what's happening today. So first of all, if you guys did not hear, Dan Sileo, if you're not familiar with his work, I'm only familiar with Dan Sileo for being incorrect. That is literally the only thing I know about Dan Sileo. As I've been covering the San Francisco 49ers for over 4 years now, I'm not sure that I've ever seen Dan Sileo actually be correct on a scoop that he had. He's in that part of the business. Again, I really don't know a whole lot about Dan Sileo. I think he's a nationally syndicated radio host, something. I don't know. But according to his reports, and I believe he had mentioned that he had even spoke to Don Yee, Jimmy Garoppolo's agent. He had mentioned and emphatically made it clear that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are trying to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I didn't report on it because for those same reasons. I've never seen anything come from that man to be remotely correct. So when it comes to Dan Cilio reports, and you guys know we report on news, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, that is a function of what we do here. And part of it is trying to discern what is real and what is not. And when we see things come from Dan, unfortunately, we just kind of take a step backwards and we just wait and see. And it has been reported today through Tom Pelissero, who had spoken to Don Yee about the claims that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in fact attempting to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Tom Pelissero said, I asked 49ers Jimmy Garoppolo's agent, Don Yee, about Garoppolo's shoulder, the status of trade talks, and a radio's host's recent comments that the Bucs had reached out about acquiring Jimmy G as their heir apparent. And Yee's response, he's progressing well and on schedule. We're optimistic about the upcoming season. Over the weekend, a report came out that asserted that I had spoken to a media member about his future, but the report was false. So it does appear that that whole situation might not have much legs. And we talked about it. We went through and tried to analyze, like, first of all, let's take a step back. Why would the Bucks go and trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? They have Tom Brady, who's ready to win now. They've had Blaine Gabbert, and by all accounts, you guys know Blaine Gabbert well. He was in the 49ers building. He's been with the Bucks for years in Bruce Arians' system, knows the system, and they feel really comfortable with him as a backup quarterback. And then this group, I think they drafted Kyle Trask in the second or third round, the same class as Trey Lance. So not only do they have their confirmed starter in Tom Brady, they have a legitimate backup by their standards and a young gun in training. So the entire notion that the Tampa Bay Bucks would go out and trade for Jimmy Garoppolo never really seemed like it had much legs, just from a rational standpoint. Why would the Bucks do that? And then we had a Bucks beat reporter come out and say that he asked a coach about about these rumors. Are the Bucks really trying to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? And his response from a Bucks coach was, he didn't mention that he said no or anything like that. He took a shot at Jimmy Garoppolo. He went on to say, if Jimmy Garoppolo could throw deep, the 49ers would have won 2 Super Bowls by now, which, as an interpretation, would be, yeah, no, the Bucks are not interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. We've gone down this discussion before regarding Bruce Arians and now Byron Leftwich from a scheme standpoint. Jimmy doesn't throw deep. And it's not like just a talking point. There's factual data to reference and back that up, that he really does not challenge deep or outside the numbers, which is a function, at least of what we've seen from Bruce Arians' offense and his scheme, and would probably translate into what Byron Leftwich will do now as the main man in charge over in Tampa. So obviously, this one got kind of debunked early. Obviously, when you have national reporters come out, like, I've never seen a national reporter actually have to put down a report from Dan, so that was a first of seeing Dan Cilio's report actually get debunked by a national reporter. So hey, maybe there's not much to it. But let's talk about another report that came out right before we were about to hop on about another Jimmy Garoppolo rumor. This one according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, the Seahawks have reportedly had internal discussions and done film work in preparation for a potential trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you guys think about this? Do you think there's any viability to it? Again, Jeremy Fowler's a much more credible source at this point. Fowler, again, is up there with your Ian Rappaports, your Tom Palaceros. Doesn't get everything right, does get some things wrong. But in regards to what he's coming out and saying, and he felt the need to go on and do a national spot on ESPN and say that the Seahawks have had internal discussions about trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. The thing that stood out to me the most about this particular report was him going on to say they watched the film. Like, oh, they're watching the film on Jimmy Garoppolo to see and having internal discussions about the viability of a potential trade in division. So, hey, we take all these reports with a grain of salt. We're probably, just so we all are aware and we're all on the same page as we continue to move forward throughout the last 2 weeks of the offseason, we're probably going to have I'm going to set the over under at 12. You tell me if we go under, you tell me if we go over. I'm setting the over under at 12 and a half Jimmy Garoppolo reports before training camp, whether trade related, throwing related, discussion related from national media. What say you? What say you? Are we going to hit the over? I mean, 12 and a half, I'm setting the bar high at 12 and a half. So what say you? Are we going to go over the Jimmy Garoppolo reports? We're going to go over 12 reports over the next 2 weeks before training camp begins. Are we going to go under? I'm lightweight feeling the over at this point. We've already got 2 in like the last 2 days. So I imagine they're going to continue to keep skyrocketing. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is the fact is we've talked about the way Jimmy and the conversations in the media will likely be an indication that things are starting to heat up in the sense of whether we start seeing Jimmy actually throwing, if they release some videos of him throwing, if we continue to hear more sourced information about him in discussions, that to me tells me that things are starting to heat up a little bit. So, again, are the Seahawks going to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? I don't know. I would be surprised if I have to give my personal opinion on the matter. If the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers were to execute a trade, that would surprise me. I just don't see a situation that totally exists where the 49ers would trade in division. It just seems counterproductive to the way the division works. Now, I'm going to ask you guys because I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what you guys would feel. Would you be concerned about Jimmy Garoppolo getting traded in division? If Jimmy Garoppolo went up north, the 49ers got a 5th round pick, 4th round pick, whatever, from the Seattle Seahawks, what would you say? Would you be okay with it? Would you pack his bags for him? What is the SDS's thoughts? I want to poll you guys, so drop it in the chat. Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with Jimmy Garoppolo playing him 2 times a year up north in Seattle? I want to see what you guys have to say in the chat. So far, Michael says no. Travis says no. Our defense knows his weaknesses in this. I'm assuming you would not mind that Jimmy goes up north. Chris says trading Jimmy in division helps us and hurts our rivals. Dang. Woo! Why would anyone be against it? Woo! Chris, he said, that's how we weaken them. Charles says, I'm not concerned at all. Paul says, get him gone. Yeah, no hat today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Travis clarifies, I would be okay with the trade. 2V says no. Jesse says yes. Yes. JC says, I'm down for Warner averaging 2 INTs per season. Sam said he wouldn't be thrilled about it. As long as Jimmy G is okay with the trade. I'm glad you're thinking about Jimmy, Keith. I really am. Makes me feel good. Niner by Nature says he'd be okay with it. Jimmy behind the Seattle line at least. Kittle gets his 2 bye weeks. Hey, Seattle, they drafted 2 high draft picks to come in and work on that offensive line. They got Charles Cross and a draft crush of mine. So their offensive line is a little bit improved, at least on paper. We'll see if those rookies actually perform at a high level. Jason says, I'm good with it. Matter of fact, I'd be his Uber driver to make sure he gets there. Cheyenne will be upset to see him up north. This is my piece. Okay. I don't think I'm less concerned about Jimmy Garoppolo, the quarterback, who in all reality is going to go up against what I've been calling a top 5, top 3, even the best defense on paper in the NFL right now. I'm not concerned about that. I think if it was Jimmy Garoppolo on the Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers from just a talent perspective, I think we understand who's likely going to come on the other side of a win in that particular situation. It would be the 49ers defense with the immense pass rush up front. You have some of the best cover linebackers in the NFL who are going to patrol where? Short to intermediate, where Jimmy Garoppolo throws the football. And then you've got safety help over the top. You got some of the better cornerbacks you guys seen that Charvarius Ward action. If you haven't, might have to pull it up. The only thing that concerns me is Garoppolo's understanding of Kyle Shanahan's offense and the seemingly weird nature of the rivalry between the Seattle Seahawks and between the San Francisco 49ers. Because let's face it, no one thought the Seattle Seahawks should have beat the 49ers twice last year. No one. Not a single soul. But they did. The Seattle Seahawks swept the 49ers last year. Should they have? Absolutely not. A travesty that the 49ers lost to Seattle twice last year. With Russell Wilson, even with Russ, their entire team, abysmal. The talent it was literally Russell Wilson versus the 49ers, and they somehow swept the 49ers. So, speaking of just the weird nature of the division, and then Jimmy Garoppolo handing over Kyle Shanahan's playbook, because it feels like, in a sense, the gift of Jimmy Garoppolo to Seattle could last much longer than Jimmy actually being in Seattle, because if Pistol Pete Carroll, Jimmy Garoppolo sit in a room for about 2 weeks and just a full download of Kyle's offense. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like that aspect of it. However, I do understand what a lot of you guys are saying. A lot of you guys don't care. A lot of you guys at this point are, get the man out of here. Like, you guys want clarity. You guys want to rip the Band-Aid off. You want to be able to just move on. That's fine with me. I'm looking at it from a range of outcome situation. I think the range that we would land on is that I'm not sure that would totally be a deal breaker, depending on the compensation given to the 49ers or whatnot. And hindsight being right now, I think it would make, I think fans would be okay with it. I think everyone would be okay with it. If Jimmy were traded to Seattle, I don't think it would be a crazy thing. The crazy thing is, again, we are looking into the future based on a range of outcome, not the predictive outcome that we think would happen, but a range of outcome nonetheless. Jimmy sweeps the Trey Lance led San Francisco 49ers. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Twitter right now? Can you imagine your DMs if you've been emphatically uh, just championing Trey Lance? And you've been a part of the discourse between Trey Lance. Could you imagine? Oh my God. That would be wild. That would be a wild time to live. If the Jimmy Garoppolo led Seattle Seahawks somehow, some way, you know how it goes any given Sunday, were to sweep the fort. Oh boy. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a wild ride. You're going to have national media dunking on the 49ers. You're going to have, oh boy. But again, these are ancillary things that really, are they a defining factor? No. We are not talking about defining factors. We are talking about very, very minuscule things that we kind of live with day to day, things that the 49ers won't give to. They don't care about the Jimmy versus Trey debate. They don't care. They don't care. That's just more a fan facing observation than anything else. But I think when it's all said and done, I think 49er fans are going to rejoice. Just for clarity, I think that we've reached that particular point in the offseason in the Jimmy Garoppolo saga. Again, we've been asking this question since January 2021. Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be a 49er? We've been asking this. It's been a long time, guys. It's been a long time. For over a year and a half, we've come onto YouTube, Instagram, whatever, and talked about the what ifs about Jimmy Garoppolo. We've talked about arm fatigue. We've talked about stream fatigue. It's crystal clear that we got Garoppolo fatigue. And I'll speak from my 2 cents. I don't hate Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a terrible quarterback. I think he's a capable starting quarterback in this league. But I am tired. I am just tired. I'm exhausted. I'm fatigued. Like, what do we have to do? What do we have to do to just have clarity with the quarterback position? I'm tired of analyzing 49er social media posts. Where's Trey Lance? Oh, they didn't put Trey in there. Oh, they put Jimmy in there. Oh my God, I'm done. But guess what? They're not done. So we got to continue to talk about it. So overall, when we take a step back, what we can rationalize right now, whether we want to believe, we want to discredit any of these reports, is that the train is picking up steam. So what does that mean? That means that the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo's camp, what have you, are starting to prepare for the next wave of getting Jimmy Garoppolo traded. The 49ers have made it abundantly clear. They will not move on from Jimmy Garoppolo unless they get something in return. per sources, very, very solid sources have told me that the 49ers will not move off Jimmy Garoppolo unless they get an asset. Uh, that's what it feels like. It really does. Um, I really believed in my heart of hearts that the 49ers would have been well suited. Just letting Trey Lance take over last year, kind of in the name of skirting the drama, right? Uh, getting away from the drama of Jimmy versus Trey, and then secondly, giving Trey the much needed reps in order to develop. Because whether we agree or disagree at what stage of development Trey Lance is in, I think we can all understand that Trey needs reps. Sauces told me Trey needs reps. So that's why I was on the edge. I was definitely in the camp of let's get Trey out there. Let's get him out there as a rookie. We'll live and die with his maturation process, but that's okay. The 49ers have a good enough team around him to be able to do so and pick up the slack. Maybe, it turned out to be the right decision to keep Jimmy I don't know. It was a rocky year last year. There's lots of ups, lots of downs with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm, but ultimately we understand the results. The results were another 10-point lead away from the Super Bowl. So I would imagine Trey Lance learned a lot of valuable lessons. Everything other than just the reps needed. Okay, well, now this year, he has that experience, the kind of watch and see aspect. Like those things are figured out. He's watched Jimmy Garoppolo, by all accounts, great leader. In the locker room, he's watched how he's interacted. He's watched how he's commanded a room, led his team in the huddle, those types of things. Now Trey Lance can see that and now just take it the step further and get on the field and make it work. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But I think the time is now. I think the time is now that the 49ers have to move forward with Trey Lance. Unfortunately, they could absolutely believe internally. Like, we could sit Trey for a couple years. Look at it. Steve Young sat for a couple years. We sat Kaepernick 2 years. If it wasn't for Alex Smith getting a concussion, Cap never would have seen the field. So you can rationalize it a bunch of different ways. But I think ultimately, based on the temperature of everyone, feels like it's time. Feels like it's time. Do you agree? Do you feel like it's trade time? If you do agree, smash that like button. And if you don't agree, tell me why you don't agree. Because honestly, at this point, feels like the bed has been made, and now it's time to sleep. Trey Lance. Just let's go. Let's go. All right. So this is my thing, man. Shout out Steven. Steven doesn't agree with anything not related to Jimmy Garoppolo at this point. That Skywalker pack. That Skywalker OG. So I think based on the chat, a lot of people they're ready to go. Now, did you guys see what Matt Mayoko said about Trey Lance's arm fatigue? uh Apparently Mayoko's hearing arm fatigue as well. At least that's what he said in a comment. But I'm just tired. Arm fitness, arm fatigue. Apparently Mayoko's heard about it. At this point, my off-season fatigue, my stream fatigue is picking up big at this point. Shout out Corey. Thank you for the super chat, Corey. He says, fan since 93, the Jimmy situation in conjunction with Lance bashing has to be top 3-5 most tiresome and endless plot lines in franchise history. I think he might be onto something. And we've had some tiresome plot lines that like are just ongoing. I mean, let's think. I'm trying to think. The Jim Tom Sula press conference kind of fiasco. That narrative and just that conversation and plot line just continued until he was fired. That was tiresome. What else was tiresome? There's been a lot. The Antonio Brown situation, everyone thinking that Antonio Brown was linked to the 49ers that one offseason. I think that was the 2019 offseason. That got a little tiresome, but I would agree. At least with my time, this offseason has been insane. It has been insane in conjunction too with the Debo saga. So not only the Debo saga, but right there next to it, moving along at the same pace was the Jimmy situation. It's been a long off season. Again, I think ultimately at the end of the day, we are just looking for clarity. The Mac Jones to Niners rumors, they're still talking about it. They are still talking about it. And when I say they, national media members who reported Trey Lance, Mac Jones to the 49ers, they're still talking about it. Like literally, they're still talking about it. Hold on. I gotta brush the ginger beard because today it's a wild time. It's a wild time to be a 49er fan. And I feel like brushing my beard right now because it's just wild. We got the ginger hair popping right now. So ultimately, don't sleep on the Mond Hive. Hey, the people who knew about the Mond Hive were the real ones. But everything, yeah, that was a tired plot line as well. So ultimately, I want to see if anything's changed for you guys. Because when I polled you, I think it was last week. I polled the chat last week. What's good, Cash? We polled the chat last week about what we thought was going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo. Has that changed for you guys? Because a lot of people felt like he was going to get released. I've always been on the side that he's not going to. I've wavered. I'm not going to lie. The Panthers situation where Panthers traded for Baker Mayfield kind of got me wavering a little bit. of like, well, I'm looking across the league. I don't really see a ton of trade destinations right now. Uh, Browns seem to be one of the only viable options. You've now apparently got Seattle as a potential option. You've heard Texas kind of thrown in there, but it's like really, again, you've got the big contract. It's a last year of the deal, so he's essentially a 1-year rental. If he does perform, you're then going to have to turn around and flip and re-sign him. So you kind of have to be in that mode where you kind of just need that 1-year guy, and that's kind of where the Panthers felt like it was a really good fit. But ultimately, the Panthers felt like they could get better value out of Baker Mayfield, who's younger and cheaper. So now, what does that leave for Jimmy Garoppolo? Uh, I don't know. You had Tom Pelissero come out today, says the expectation across the league is that Jimmy Garoppolo will get traded at the end of this month. Obviously, there's been conflicting reports about has he thrown, is he not throwing? Those things are up for determining. I don't know. We haven't seen it. You've heard conflicting reports. So until we actually start to see some stuff or hear more credible things about Garoppolo throwing, it's kind of a wait and see period. We're kind of just waiting and seeing what is going on. And right now, a whole lot of nothing. A whole lot of nothing. A whole lot of speculation. A whole lot of rumors. So we'll see. The only way that I can personally see Jimmy Garoppolo being released is that if they get to that point into training camp, they put him on ice, they have him kind of sitting and just rehabbing off to the side, waiting for a trade to materialize. The only way I see him getting released is if it comes down all the way to the 53-man roster cut down, and they make the decision that we can't trade him. We can't carry that 27, $26 million figure, or they don't want to carry that into the season. That's at about the time where I could see him getting released. But I think up until then, the 49ers are going to do whatever they can to get this guy traded. So where he ultimately ends up, I have no idea. We just want to know. We want it to be here sooner rather than later because, yes, we have Garoppolo fatigue. We have Garoppolo fatigue. Now it's transitioning to stream fatigue. This hair ain't fatigued, though. Woo! These curls ain't fatigued. Woo! These curls ain't fatigued, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! I'm about like be like this all training camp. I'm just gonna be like this. You're gonna look up. You're gonna see me out there, and I'm gonna be shaking the curls. Anytime we see a Trey Lance dart, just we're gonna be shaking the curls, baby, and be like, yes, yes. Uh, and shout out everyone in the chat. Smash that like button if you haven't already. If you haven't subbed, how are you not a part of the SDS yet? How are you not part of the SDS yet? Y'all see this though? Y'all see this over the weekend? Y'all see this man's? Ooh. Big body blows. Look at Kinlaw, man. Look at Kinlaw. How inspirational. This dude's ready, bro. This dude is ready to destroy someone. Ready. Shout out the lurkers just coming in to call Kinlaw a bust. But look at this, man. Best shape of his life. Best shape of his life. Phenomenal. I can't wait. We already know the knee feels better. We already know. We already know he's in the best shape of his life. We continue to hear reports coming out of 49ers land that he is mentally in the best place he has been since he's been with the 49ers. He's hungry, he's ready, and he's mentally prepared like he's never been before. I'm calling it now, ladies and gentlemen. Javon Kinlaw breakout coming. Oh, baby. Javon Kinlaw, he's going to remind a lot of people why he was a first-round draft pick. Oh boy. Excited. The mood is tense. Kinlaw, though, on some real, I think he's ready. Man, dude, everyone, I know you've seen it. And again, we understand we're watching training. We're watching training videos. Boxing and football. Yeah, we get it. We're watching training videos. But we know how to assess the certain things within the training videos. Like this particular video here of the 49ers' newest cornerback, Charvarius Ward. This training session should get you hyped. And I'll explain and rationalize why why you're allowed to be hyped off this training video. Let's do it. Let's break it down and analyze how you can actually take things away from certain types of workouts and videos. This one right here, what we are specifically pinpointing, detailing, and evaluating hip fluidity. When you look at cornerbacks and you have to assess their back pedal, speed turns, hip fluidity, depth in their stance, ability to keep their base and stay in phase with a wide receiver, you can do that with this clip. This clip, yes, it's against air. There's no pads. Yes, we understand. But what we can identify from this clip from Charvarius Ward is this boy hips don't lie. The hips don't lie in this clip. You can't hide that. That functionally translates to the field with pads against wide receivers. The ability to mirror, the ability to stay in phase, the ability to flip hips on at any given time. The ability to speed turn, understanding where the wide receiver potentially could be and be able to recover right here. Speed turn, recover, back in phase. Beautiful. That was my favorite one, where he gets the speed turn and then the wide receiver tries to take advantage of getting his back and cut back to the inside, and he's right back in phase. Beautiful. Yeah, it's against air. Yeah, he's got no pads on, but this translates to the field. And this is beautiful. This guy can This one got me excited. Because let's face it. Like when you see them lifting weights, you see them, plyo. Yeah, they're good shape. How does that translate to the field? This translates. Hey, I'm telling you, man. These hips ain't lying. Those hips are cornerback one hips. I'm saying you. I'll let them know. Let them know that those hips ain't lying, and that functionally translates into coverage when wide receivers are trying to hit you with the releases off the line. They're trying to stem a route, make it look like they're breaking off to do a particular route concept, and they hit you with a counter. You get all that here. So, things you love to see. I'm really excited about this team. I'm really excited about the defense. I think things are clicking all at the right direction. Obviously, we'll figure out. We'll figure out. I actually do have Trent Williams boxing videos. I have those. I've got Spencer Burford boxing videos. I got Jason Poe boxing videos. What you need, I got it. I'm your plug for all 49ers related video and content. If it's out there, there's a good chance it's on my camera roll. And those are ones that I do have. So ultimately, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this year. Very excited. We're going to continue to talk about, again, unfortunately, the reports that pop up that continue to kind of circulate around this team. Again, I don't think this is going to be our last time talking about new potential trade candidates for Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think it's going to be the last time that we mention Jimmy Garoppolo ramping up towards a potential trade. I don't think it's going to be the last time that we have a uncredible source report something. So, hey, we're going to continue to talk about it all. But you know the vibes. Someone said, "Who's got the Trent? You want the Trent videos? You want the Trent boxing videos?" Like I said, if you want it, I got it. If you want it, I got it. Let's see what we got. Where is it? Big Trent. Oh, boy. Hey, don't mess with the silverback, bro. Hey, don't mess with the silverback. This dude, goat. Absolutely goated. So, we're ready. We're ready. If you guys have any comments, questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll open it up to you guys. If there's anything you want to talk about, any piece of 49ers news, notes, rumors, hypotheticals, this is your time to shine. This is your time to shine. And this is facts. Trent Williams is the best left tackle in football, best player in the league. Oh, yeah. So I'm really, really happy about it all. Sick of these vets. I would try searching 49ers all 22. I would try that. Who's my running back one after this year? So you're saying not this year, not in 2022. You're saying in 2023? Who is my RB1? I think that's what you're asking. Who's your RB1 after this year? After that, I mean that 2 years. Let me check the magic 8 ball that I got. It's going to be between TDP and Elijah Mitchell. it's going to be TDP and Elijah Mitchell. I don't know if there will ever be a true workhorse running back unless it literally is due to attrition. But I really do think the future of the 49ers running back room is going to be Elijah Mitchell, TDP, but the wild card Jordan Mason. Potentially. So, we'll see. How much of a dog is Burford knowing the man chews lemon heads? Bro, Burford is like, when we talk about offensive linemen, like he has all the offensive lineman DNA. Like he is an offensive lineman, 100%. He's not just a guy who's just like super big, like, oh, I'll play offensive. No, he's an offensive lineman. Like that's in his D. It's in his DNA. So I think Burford, man, one thing that I talk about Burford is I think he's just athletically gifted. I think he's kind of, got some of those glimpses of just the natural ability. Not saying he is Trent Williams because Trent Williams is a unicorn, but some of the things in which makes Trent Williams so good is his athletic ability. I think Burford got some of that. I think Burford has just raw natural ability, whether it's quick feet, just strong at the point of attack, uh, the ability to move quickly. I think that Burford, once he can master the technical sides of things and just really polish his game, I think I think it might take a year or two, but I think Burford can be legit, definitely be a starter for the 49ers in the long run. So, uh, I definitely think he could be something. So we'll see. Hey, appreciate you, Texas Niners, while watching me on your break. Gotta love it. Jesus says, you think the 49ers sign another center or stick with what we have? To be honest, I believe if the 49ers were going to sign another center, they would have done it already. I think the JC Treader kind of being out there still kind of tells us enough about JC Treader. I think JC Treader is a bit of an injury concern at this point in his career. And so I don't know if teams, again, that's one aspect of it, is you have to be able to clear medical. A lot of what I've seen is he's had an extensive injury history, especially as of late. So I don't know. And you already look at the 49ers offensive line. Again, Jake Brunskill can play center. Uh, I really believe Zakel was brought in to learn to potentially be a center. They brought in Donovan West. Um, they again, it's definitely unknown, but it's not like they are lacking at the position. They definitely aren't lacking bodies. So something tells me, and again, Jason Poe too. Don't forget about Jason Poe and his ability to play center. So they have bodies there. Again, Sutherland is another name. He's been the second string center from what we've seen in mandatory minicamp. So I think they might feel a little bit more comfortable at center than we do at this particular point. But based on what I've seen with the sheer numbers that they have damn near 6 centers on the roster. So I believe if they really wanted to bring in someone else, they would have done it already. I think they're pretty confident going into this training camp, unless someone gets cut, unless someone comes available for a trade or something like that. I feel like at this stage they are pretty confident with what they have with that center. And I would actually kind of again counter this point too. I think they have a lot of depth They have a lot of depth on that O-line. I keep talking about it. I really do think someone's going to get cut that we weren't anticipating on that O-line. Someone's going to get cut, and we're going to be like, oh, like there just aren't enough spots. Last year, the 49ers carried 8 offensive linemen. I imagine they're going to carry 8 offensive linemen as well. That means outside the 5 starters, which we pretty much know who they're going to be, at least right now, heading into training camp, that means there's only 3 backups. They drafted 2 offensive linemen just this year. You typically don't cut draft picks. It's happened. It's not like it's never happened before. Of course, we've seen guys like what's his name, Joe Williams, 4th round pick, get cut same year he was drafted. So it's not like we haven't seen it, but also could imagine there's a world where Colton McKivitz makes a difficult decision for the 49ers to keep Burford, Zakel, potentially you know what I'm going to say? Jalen Moore. So we're going to find out. I think a lot of people right now would be like, well, Jalen Moore's a shoo-in to make it. I think Colton's the shoo-in right now. I think Colton, based on his progression last year, based on where he's already kind of started out in mini camp, kind of presumably the swing tackle, because he can play the beautiful thing about Colton McKivitz, he can play both left and right. Not only can he play both left and right side, he can play both tackle guard left and right side. That versatility on your second string offensive line, considering what Colton McKivitz did, again, I recency bias, I guess. Last thing Colton McKivitz showed me was him playing exceptionally well week 18 against the Rams, helping the 49ers get into the playoffs. I feel like Colton has earned his spot. Not only that, I spoke to people who know, and they told me last year when Colton McKivitz was cut, they were shocked by that. They were shocked that Colton McKivitz didn't make it. Something tells me Colton makes it this year. But what does that mean for Burford, Zakel, Poe, West, Sutherland, Jalen Moore? There's 49ers quietly have some good depth on that O-line. Just not a lot of proven, right? That's what I feel like we keep coming back to. Proven. So, but I think on paper, actually have pretty decent depth. And they're going to actually, I think there's going to be a potential surprise cut on the offensive line. We'll find out. But let me get back to some of these comments. Who do I think will play the nickel position? Honestly, I feel like Womack could ultimately win the job in training camp. It feels like everything that I've heard about Samuel Womack, 5th round draft pick out of Toledo, is a lot of what you want to hear. In regards to the way he carries himself, mentality, physical skill sets, all those types of things. And especially if that's where he's being groomed, definitely does feel like Womack could be that guy. Now, of course, we cannot forget about the Amador, and we cannot forget about Darqueze Dennard, who's been taking starting reps. But I also can rationalize, just because you're taking starting reps in a mini camp or training camp doesn't mean you're going to hold that ground as a veteran. Sometimes that's just the way it is. You come into camp, all the veterans get the first run at being able to be in the starting group. And then as training camp progresses, then the depth chart settles. But who knows? We've heard tons of good things about Darqueze Dennard. I think it's going to be one of the most underrated uh, or rated training camp battles that we have coming up. Those three guys, I think, are all capable. I think Darqueze Dennard, who was signed at the end of the year last season and has stuck, I think they like him a lot, and he was the starting nickel in minicamp. However, we'll see how that continues to progress throughout training camp. Once you start to get, you see Samuel Womack, once you see Diamador Lenore, we'll have a better idea once we get into camp. But I think Womack, again, I don't know. That's what my guts tell me. Could be completely wrong. It could be Darqueze holds it out over the two young bucks. Maybe Diamador Lenore takes massive leaps and steps in year 2, or Womack's ready. We're gonna find out though. That's why camp's gonna be nice. Camp's gonna be nice. Thomas said, if you were Shanahan, would you punish Debo by giving those red zone carries to Ray Ray? I wouldn't call it a punishment. But potentially I would use it more as a scheme philosophy. If Debo doesn't want to do that as much, doesn't mean I wouldn't change the threat of that. I would still line Debo up in the backfield because the threat of Debo running is enough to stack the box, right? So we've talked about, what's going to be the difference this year. I know Justin's asked me a couple times about stacked boxes versus Trey Lance. This is where you get to start to be creative. Just because Debo doesn't potentially want to do it doesn't mean you shouldn't use the threat of it. And if you use the threat of it and you bring him right next to Trey Lance, you have two tight ends on the line of scrimmage, you're showing a heavy look with use check, you can get a stacked box per design and then play action off of it and take advantage of the stacked boxes. So with Debo, I want to say it's a punishment. Would I give red zone carries to Ray Ray? Yeah, potentially. But if you also had TDP, Jeff Wilson, and Elijah Mitchell, potentially Trey Sermon, Jordan Mason, maybe you don't need to. But the threat of Debo continued to be there as a runner. I would absolutely use that. And I would use that to my advantage. I really do think that even if you use Debo less, you still don't change the threat of it. You still threaten it. You still have him line up in that backfield. You still have him. You still have him back there. I think once the contract stuff gets figured out, they're just going to move on. It's going to be all about football. At least that's the hope. So hopefully we'll figure that out here soon. But good thought process. Let's see what other questions, comments you guys have here. Ooh, this is a good one. I like this one. I like this one a lot. From MLEX. From Trey's Tate. Trey doesn't really slide. You think he'll come into this season having learned to slide to avoid hits? I hope so. I hope that this was a point of emphasis for Trey Lance. Not necessarily just flat out sliding, just protecting himself. Because we saw Kyle had no problems putting Trey Lance in harm's way. No problems. Like literally. Oh, the game's over? Oh, we're running the clock out? All right, let's run QB power and run Trey Lance into the teeth of the defense head first. Like Kyle, it needs to be a bit of a duality. I think Kyle needs to learn how to protect his young quarterback, because what we've learned, the young quarterback, when he gets out in space, when he gets an opportunity to run, he has a tendency to go head first, shoulders first, running behind his pads. Because let's face it, Trey Lance is a big bodied guy. He's run over plenty of people in his time running the football. But we've also seen it the opposite way in the NFL. So I think for what the 49ers want and are requiring of him, they don't need him to be Derrick Henry of quarterbacks. They wouldn't mind him using his legs and his athletic ability to help enhance the system, but at the same time, you got to protect the quarterback, whether that is limiting the amount of quarterback powers you run, and or once he gets open and he gets out in space on design zone read keepers, then we got to figure out how to what type of contact is okay and what type of content is just like let's just not do it. Just get down, just hit the turf. That's it. Uh One of the things that Russell Wilson does so well is he's extremely elusive, but when he is in the open field, he gets down. He does not take unnecessary hits. He is it's a masterclass with Russell Wilson when it comes to not taking hits. Because I know we all think it, just like defenders think it. Oh, you see the quarterback escape, run, you're like, all right, I'm about to light him up. This is our opportunity to put a lick on the quarterback as a runner and not get penalized for going too low, going too high. Quarterback's a runner now. He has all the same rules as everyone else. Let's go rock him. And so that's part of the mentality. Like Trey Lance knows this. When he gets out in space, he knows people are headhunting at that point. So it's a combined effort, I think, of him learning how to preserve himself for a longer career. We've seen similar things out of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's not even a runner, but he'll take on contact. He's had to he's come out and said that oh, I got to pause. I got to pause on trying to initiate contact in this league. So I agree that it's a learned thing from both sides. I think Kyle needs to be better about putting his quarterback in harm's way, as well as Trey understanding when to take a hit and when to not take a hit. Um, and that I think that comes with time, and I think it'll be good. Who gets paid more? Bosa. Easy. Saquon Barkley becomes free agent in 2023. Do you think we look into this? Maybe, but my gut would tell me no, especially with the injury concerns that he already has and with the kind of depth that the 49ers already have. Because if Barkley has a good year next year, he'll be expensive or somewhat expensive. Which 49ers player will be fantasy football breakouts? Last year was Mitchell and Debo. When we're talking breakouts, I think it's going to be Ayuk. I think Ayuk going to go crazy. I think Juwan Jennings is going to be got to be on your roster watch. I think you just got to watch for Jennings because Jennings is going to be a touchdown dependent fantasy asset. So if you're in a PPR league and potentially, you get good scoring, you get good points for touchdowns. I think Juwan Jennings has a chance to lead the entire team in touchdowns. But that also goes to, I think someone said it down here too. I agree. A resurgence of George Kittle in fantasy as well. So yes, I think Ayuk, Kittle. I think Debo's ADP, I don't know if he's going to be able to match it. I would caution drafting Debo high. I would. Unless Jimmy's coming back. If Jimmy's coming back, ride Debo to the moon because we know what's going to happen. They're going to just force feed Debo because that's just how it works. But if Trey Lance is the quarterback, then I do imagine guys like Ayuk, guys like Kittle, guys like Juwan Jennings will see what happens when you have a quarterback who distributes the football. I imagine Debo's going to get a lot of eyes on him. I imagine defensive coordinators going to go into games stopping Debo. How do we neutralize Debo? Debo can't beat us. Debo can't beat us. Kittle can't beat us, which could lead to Ayuk, Jennings getting some targets. No, I don't think Hockett will make the 53 with Juice around. However, I do think Hockett is good enough to make a 53 as a fullback. He was really fun to watch last year in training camp. He's a really good wide receiver, really good out of the backfield. He's a former wrestler, so he has great leverage. I like Hockett, but if Juice is there, they're not going to carry two fullbacks. So he'll be a practice squad guy until Juice is no longer. Let's see. Does Trey Sermon make the final cut? He's on the bubble. I think he's on the bubble. Now we'll see when training camp hits. A lot of hype about Jordan Mason right now. You would imagine Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell, TDP are locks. I imagine they carry 4 running backs. So that is a 3-way battle. Hasty, Sermon, Jordan Mason, potentially vying for the last spot. So I actually, I kind of have Sermon. I have Sermon on the bubble until he shows otherwise. I really was expecting you to have a 49ers tattoo at this point. Hey, it might happen. It might happen. Let's go, Insight. Look at that. Another Trent Williams jersey added. You love to see it. You love to see it. Who do you think is a wild card to be cut? I could be completely wrong. I don't know. If Burford and Zakel have a really good camp, because like I said, I think McKivitz is the lock for swing tackle right now. I think he's the lock. And the presumed starters are Williams, Banks, Brendel, Brunskill, and McGlinchey. I think Jalen Moore could be a surprise cut. And it would be a surprise. It would be a big surprise. But it could happen. Oh, you see the locks out today. The Sentinel says, please tell me we are not giving Mike McGlinchey a spot just because he's been bullied by defensive tackles all his career. Well, to be honest, I would say a big reason why McGlinchey is going to make the roster this year is because I think he's making like $10 million guaranteed. The 49ers picked up his 5th-year option. And as a result, I think that will translate into him making the roster just from a dollars and cents logic alone for how much that they've given to him. I think it's important to note that McGlinchey is a very well-respected member of that locker room. And McGlinchey did get better last year. So before he went down with the injury, he was improving from what had occurred in 2020. So he continues to attack the work and get it done. He will be here. So there's about 10 million reasons why he'll be here, but hey, he'll be here. Let's see. Shout out to everyone. We got you, my boy. Keep coming around. What did y'all think about RG3's comments about Kyle's controlling nature? This is one of the things that I pegged Kyle with almost instantly. I've been out. I've definitely talked about Kyle Shanahan's old school mentality and how he does a really good job of building out I think his staff to be have a lot of emotionally intelligent people. I think Mike McDaniels, when you listen to Mike McDaniels speak about coaching, he always speaks about coaching through the lens of making the player understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And he always talks about it from the sense of the emotional, like psychological standpoints of it. One of my biggest critiques of Kyle, and I love Kyle, I think Kyle's definitely one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's been one of my favorite coaches ever for the 49ers. I think Kyle's phenomenal. But I also do think Kyle is a bit of a hard ass and but to his own detriment. Um, I think he's realized that with the quarterback position. I think a big reason why him and Jimmy don't work is because of his coaching style. I think that Kyle is a perfectionist, and when he doesn't get his way, it's kind of like I'm going to scream at you and kind of destroy your confidence like while I'm wanting you to be better. You know what I mean? Like he's very uh brash, I think, about his coaching style. And if there's anything that I've learned from my time as a player, is that not everyone responds to that. I've seen it firsthand. Um, I've had coaches that all they do is yell and scream at you and belittle you, and everything you're doing is not good enough. And I've seen those coaches, and I've seen the flip side of those coaches. I've seen the flip side of those coaches who are always going to pull you to the side. They're always going to explain it to you calmly, what they're looking for, what they want, what they're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish. I've seen it both ways, and I've seen positives come from both of it. But when you're new, you're young, you're trying to learn, uh, guess what? Not everyone learns that way. And if you're concerned about someone's confidence, sometimes going at their neck because they made a mistake, you're actually making a dual mistake. Not only are you not reinforcing what needs to be learned, you're reinforcing what they did wrong. And then the learning point becomes I'm scared to make a mistake versus I recognize what I did wrong and I'm going to learn to not do that again versus I'm going to learn to not get yelled at anymore. I think Kyle I think Kyle's he's a bit of a hard ass. And you have to be. There's alphas everywhere, man. There's alphas everywhere. But I've talked about it on this before as well. I've talked about it on this stream before as well. Uh about 2 weeks ago, uh Kyle's best friend, uh Mr. Sims, was talking about this specific point in which he said, I believe Kyle understands now the kind of that side of it and understanding maybe I need to dial it back a little bit with some of the intense nature in which I get upset about things. Um, and I found it interesting that Chris Sims used that as a point in regards to the growth of Kyle Shanahan and how he's becoming still a better coach. So I think this thing is true. I think Kyle is super controlling. He's a perfectionist and he reacts a certain way when things aren't perfect. But I do find it a bit comforting that Chris Sims has mentioned that Kyle's identified that about himself and is trying to kind of change that mentality. Um, because I think it would benefit. Again, there's already so much pressure being in the NFL, but when you get around a kid, and I always call Trey Lance a kid, and I don't mean it out of disrespect. But now that I'm an old head now. I'm 33. Uh, I understand why people called me a kid at 22. I was like, what? I'm not a kid, bro. I'm not a kid, boomer. And it's like, actually, you are. You're just a big ass kid that can drink alcohol now. Um, but ultimately, I say it all the time. Young man. He's a young man. Thank you. I call him a kid all the time. But I think when you understand the pressures of the NFL, you have a very demanding coach who expects perfection, and then the approach, if perfection isn't met, is adverse. It could be detrimental. Could be detrimental. That's all I'll say. I've seen it be detrimental. I've seen guys just wither. But again, that you also on the flip side, you're like, well, that determines, if you got that dog in you, like you can handle the NFL. To an extent, yes. To an extent, yes. But also, if the focus is on coaching and teaching, then you have to be smart enough to understand that not everyone learns the same. Not every single person learns the same and or responds the same. So if you're focused on coaching and teaching, then you should be able to rationalize when a certain coaching method works and it doesn't work. And I think that's what Chris Sims was kind of saying. So I think ultimately, you know, Kyle can still grow as a coach. Trey can still grow as a player. So there's time. They can get it together. So we'll see. Do you think Kyle and Jimmy's relationship had to do with it not talking during the offseason? I don't think Kyle and Jimmy had a good relationship. I don't think they did. Again, I've talked about this story on this channel all the time. Going back to 2020, week 5 against the Dolphins. The way Kyle was yelling at Jimmy on the sideline and Jimmy's body language in return, both their body language. Again, this is straight from broadcast. I'm just watching the broadcast of Kyle and Jimmy on the sideline. I was like, oh, it's done. Like that body language, that like the way that they're communicating, I was like, that's not normal. Like I was like I was like that was intense. Like that's not normal coach quarterback back and forth. Like again through the broadcast. And that was the day that I decided I was going to start scouting quarterbacks, week 5 of 2020. And I liked Jimmy. I thought Jimmy had an opportunity to be really good. Um, but in that Dolphins game, week 5, I said, oh, there's an issue here. I would have to look it up. I don't have it. I don't have the broadcast on me. I just like emphatically remember like that being a huge thing for me because I'd always been on the Jimmy side. I'd always, when it was 2019 and you had everyone calling pretenders, this, that, and the other thing, I was always one to defend Jimmy. Like, dude was coming off major reconstructive ACL surgery all off season. He was working on rehab and not working on getting better. And so the season I always felt you had to take with kid gloves because you had to allow Garoppolo to get up to speed, which is what they did. Like, again, that first game against Tampa Bay, uh, really didn't ask him to do a whole lot. Um, up until the last, I think the third game of the year in 2019 was against the Steelers, and they didn't. It was a terrible game. It was Mason Rudolph versus Jimmy Garoppolo, week 3, uh, and they really didn't ask Garoppolo to do a whole lot until that last drive, and then he had to win that, the game-winning drive. So I was always on Garoppolo's side of, all right, he's going through the rehab process, let everything settle, let him catch up to speed. Um, when the Tom Brady stuff hit, I was like, oh, I can still see Garoppolo getting better. I can still see Garoppolo getting better. So I was always like, I'm still sticking with Garoppolo, but that's why that week 5 was like sticks out to me so much, is because like I was like, oh, I know, at least I felt that it was kind of wraps at that point. So, and yeah, that game was a disaster. That was the Brian Allen game. That was the game where 49ers fans sent death threats to Brian Allen, who was signed like 3 or 4 days before the game and forced to be a starter while Ahkello Witherspoon chilled on the sideline. You guys remember that game? Oh, that was a fun game. That was a fun game. But their interaction on the sideline is what told me the Jimmy Garoppolo thing was done. And that was all based on kind of the notion of, how Kyle interacts sometimes. So, hey, who am I to critique, Kyle Shanahan? You know what I mean? Like, who am I? But I do pay attention to those body language, kind of the emotional intelligence side of things, and understanding that people learn a lot of different ways. And sometimes just screaming into someone's face feels like it sometimes could be more just beneficial to you as airing your grievances than actually educating and getting on the same page. But that's my 2 cents. But anyways, today's been dope though. Shout out everyone. Feels like everyone's getting ready, is getting in the training camp mode. It feels like with these 2 weeks away, feels like training camp, what, like 2 weeks is like 17 days away, something like that. Training camp feels like everyone's starting to get groovy. So I'm excited. Oh, shout out Insight. You a legend, bro. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the SDS. Vibes are high today. Vibes are high today when we get Jimmy Garoppolo rumors. Vibes are vibes are high when someone dangles the carrot that Jimmy Garoppolo could be traded. Vibes are high. The vibes are high. But I also think part of it, we got to give some credit to the locks, because I think the ginger locks are also providing some of the vibes today. Because I just can't wait, man. I can't wait. Free trade vibes. Shout out to SDS. This offseason has been crazy. Nuts. Oh, listen to Travis. Smash that like button if you haven't already. What are we at? Hopefully, we made it to 100 today. I would imagine we would make it to 100. But we'll know. Someone let me know in the chat. Someone let me know in the chat. But getting there. Oh, we're at 91. We could get to 100. Let's get to 100. Come on now. He said, if you don't smash that like button, Jimmy G will be quarterback week 1. Hey, he said it, not me. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't put that evil on me. All right. I know we're close. Once we get to that 100 piece, I think that concludes today's episode. Like I said, vibes were legit today. Jimmy trade rumors to the Bucks have been deemed false up until this point. However, we got a new report today that hey, Seahawks potential, maybe. And I just looked up Chum Lee, and you guys are a-holes, but I kind of see it. So screw you, but I kind of see it. If he's Japanese, then it's a wrap. Is he Japanese? Is he my brother from another mother? I get Luke Combs a lot as well. Luke Combs is a popular one. But if he's Japanese, then yeah, we might be brothers. But y'all are funny. Your daughter says Combs. Yeah, I get Luke Combs a lot. Hey, whatever. Dude, the legend. Shout out Luke. Ginger beard god. Oh, did we hit 100? Did we hit? Are we at 105 now? Let's go. Catch me on Pawn Stars at 8 p.m. tonight. Catch me on Pawn Stars at 8 p.m. tonight. I'll be doing my rendition of Luke Combs' newest single. So make sure you catch me over there. Quinn. I see Quinn Miners. Quinn's a legend. Shout out Quinn. I'm not singing no songs. If I sing, it's organic and it sounds terrible. But on command, you're asking for pain in your ears. That's what you're asking for. But you know it's that part of the stream when we start comparing to who else I look like. So far, Chum Lee, Luke Combs, baby. Oh, my mom said I look like Hagrid the other day. So we got Hagrid, Luke Combs, Chum Lee. When you talk about international sex symbols, Hagrid, Chum Lee, Luke Combs, bro. How can you compete with that? Move over, Ronaldo. Move over. The ginger Hagrid in the building. Bruce Miller, too. Oh yeah, we're off the rails at this point. I appreciate all y'all tapping in. I appreciate you not getting too distracted by the ginger gorgeous locks. I know they pop out at you and woo. Hey, I know. I get it. I get it. I get it. This the one. This the one. Hey, your wife knows the vibes. She knows the vibes. But I appreciate all y'all. Unless anything earth shattering happens from now until tomorrow around this time, I will see you guys again. I might pop up on IG, maybe trying to do a little bit more IG lives. We'll see. But again, appreciate all you guys. I think we hit over 100 likes. So appreciate you guys. Smash that like button if you haven't. Sub if you haven't already. And of course, hit those noti bells and smash any like button that you ever see from any video on this page. Let's go. Shout out to SDS. It's go time. Appreciate you guys. We're out of here.